studio is Republican Congressman Greg Murphy from North Carolina. Congressman, it's great to have you with us here in person today. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Set the record straight for us on a couple of things. Number one, the extent to which North Carolina has been abandoned, as Donald Trump said. What do you still need? And what do you make of using disaster relief as leverage to get other items passed in the House of Representatives?
North Carolina, I traveled the Monday after the Friday of the hurricane, and this was Hiroshima bomb type of devastation. It was really, really terrible. FEMA in certain places moved on, made regulations. It's just so much of a bureaucratic hurdle to go through. And so, we had some people kicked out of FEMA places and hotels a few weeks ago. FEMA now has promised they wouldn't do that until May 25th. But this is a huge hurdle. Yeah, we can walk and chew gum at the same time as I try to speak, but we can still take care of the people that are having tragedies in California. But North Carolina, it's going to take years, if not a decade or more, to really get us back to that. As far as tying disaster aid to some really responsible things that go on in the coast there in California, I think it's okay because it needs to ameliorate the factors that have made these fires so devastating. President Trump in his previous term sent something to, Gavin Newsom at the time. Look, let's do better management of land. Let's do better management of water. And Newsom said no. He didn't do that. So I think sometimes the adults have to come into the room and say, this is what's best for your people, best for your country, even if you don't do that for you. So I don't have a problem with that.
Of course, we've heard from sources in Los Angeles this notion that it really is an infrastructure issue. It's not so much about water not being there, but you need to have the capacity to be able to fight fires like this. And
Absolutely.
No municipal infrastructure is built with that kind of capability, unfortunately, when we're looking at disasters like this. On the point, though, of it being kind of leveraged, and tying it to changes in California. What about tying it to raising the debt ceiling? Do you view that as just as appropriate?
Well, I think we all know we're going to have to raise the debt ceiling. It's going to have to be in some part, some package of one or another, whether it comes through reconciliation or sooner. It's going to have to be done. And so whatever mechanism that we're going to need to use to do that, then that's what we're going to have to do. It's not an if, it's just a when.
You've got a lot of work to do here. I know that it's already been a busy start for you in this new Congress. There are a lot of questions about the agenda.
Yeah.
We saw your Speaker, Mike Johnson, at the White House yesterday, along with the Majority Leader in the Senate, John Thune. Every day we're waiting for a directive here from someone, a consensus on how to move forward. How come we don't have one yet?
Well, I think what we've been waiting for are the top line budget numbers. And Jody Arrington is our chair of budget. That's going to come out with the top line numbers. Then we're going to work from that. We've been working, Chairman Smith's been working last 18 months, if not longer. We've been traveling around the country listening to people about their concerns about small businesses and their tax concerns. Yeah. The Trump tax cuts come due at the end of the year, so does some of the expiration with the ACA subsidies. So we have to work very, very hard to thread a needle that isn't millimeters, it's microns thin as far as making sure we get 218. Hopefully some of the Democrats will come along with us.
Well, as you kind of put the puzzle pieces together to get to 218, I do wonder how you see this working with people like Mike Lawler, for example, who has been pleading the SALT case very hard and was meeting with the president at the White House today, versus others who say, why should we give a tax benefit to the richest people in the country when that increasingly is not the base of the Republican Party anymore? How do you square that?
Well, I don't think we should do tax policy according to political boundaries. I think that's absolutely wrong. What we should do is try to have tax policy that is two tenets. Number one is a pro-growth policy that keeps people's money in their hands, in their corporations to grow and employ people. And two, I think just as importantly, pay attention to our debt. I think our debt is our greatest existential threat to this country. We are now, $930 billion paying our interest on our debt. And so we have to do something, again, threading this needle that is tiny aperture to be able to do to make sure that we get 218. We are fiscally responsible, but we are also pro-growth.
I think Kayleigh already invoked the debt ceiling in that chair earlier today. Was your former colleague, Patrick McHenry, a former Republican congressman, actually held the gavel and was chair of the Financial Services Committee. He talked about the negotiations over this constantly controversial matter. Here's what he said.
With Trump, what the Democratic members of the House and Senate want to do for their votes is to raise spending, to increase spending. That is not as popular as cutting spending in America today, and that is not commensurate with the president's commitment to the American people. So the longer this draws out, the more likely the Democratic members get their leverage point to raise spending.
This is your fellow North Carolinian, correct?
Yeah, he's a smart member. we really miss Patrick. But I think he's spot on in some of these things. There is an urgency, there is an expediency that we do need to have these things done by. But that said, we are the majority. We are the majority in the House, and we are the majority in the Senate. And trying to get all our members on the same page to actually implement something, get it put into law, really is pressing upon us. Mm-hmm. So there are no days off. We have to work on this every day and get this done as soon as possible.
Well, so when we consider all of the numbers at play here, including the tax policy that you and your colleagues on the Ways and Means Committee are going to get to work on, do you have to know first what actually the tariff policy is going to be as you're figuring out the ledger? Because he keeps saying, oh, they could come, the threat is out there, but nothing's being enacted. And how do you look at the picture holistically without clarity on that?
Sure. Well, you have to remember, today's Tuesday, and so President Trump's not been in office too long. But that said,
fair enough.
I think he's put February 1st as his day that the tariffs will come out. Personally, I don't think we need to, or we should, it's my personal opinion, we should rely on tariffs as a revenue source. It'd be nice if they are. Tariffs are for one reason, in my opinion, and that's to establish free trade, or fair trade policy, rather. What comes on a secondary thing as far as any type of revenue is great. It's gravy. But what we need to do is look back and say what things have, and what tax policies have been something that is pro-growth, something that's really going to employ people, put money in their pockets, put money in the coffers of the Treasury. But at the same time, again, we have to make sure these are sound policies that do not put us further in debt.
You're a surgeon. You know how to play triage.
I sure do.
When you sit down on the Ways and Means Committee and you look at this massive list beyond just 2017. Add SALT back in, no tax on tips, overtime, Social Security, mortgage interest. I could keep going on forever here.
Sure.
How do you play triage knowing that probably not all of these are going to pass?
Well, not all of them are going to pass because part of them can't be put in reconciliation per the rules, Byrd rule in the Senate. So the Social Security issue is out. Looking at no tax on tips, looking at some of the other things, I personally like to look at the numbers. What is the gain on this? It's nice to have no tax on this, no tax on that. But we do have an obligation to fund our agencies to deal with the debt. Mm-hmm. So really, triage is a good point. We had today a long meeting today on Ways and Means where other members came up and gave their desires, what they want to see in tax package. Love to say yes to all of them, but that's not what's happening. We have to hunker down and we have to do the streamline and the basic things that need to be done to run our government, make sure our programs are funded, but also pay attention to what's happening with our debt.
I'd like to ask you about specific government programs that as of today are on the path to going away, ending DEI initiatives across the federal government. As of 5 p.m., the people who worked in those areas are being placed on paid leave. And often we think about DEI in terms of gender or race, but it also, inclusion efforts could affect things like veterans, for example, which I know you work on in the House. And I wonder if you have any concerns about the way in which this is being done, what it might signal for other groups beyond what you might think.
I look at DEI. When I was on the college board, it was all about diversity, but everything except opinion. I think DEI is one of the most denigrating, divisive, demoralizing type of policies that we have, because they're saying your worth is not in your mind, it's not in how hard you work, it's what you look like, what you believe. It's something that is so un-American that we've seen in the last 4 years overtake our society. I am happy to see that go away. One of my pet peeves is seeing how DEI has been gone into medical schools and medical institutions when literally lives are on the line. So this is a great day as far as America. Let us come back to meritocracy. This is where Americans of all genders, of all races, of everybody is lifted up. But let us know that that's what's important. Excellence is what is important. And, the consequences are what they are. These programs should have never been there. And the government is not there just as an employment agency.
All right. Republican Congressman Greg Murphy of North Carolina here with us in our Washington, D.C. studio. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.